thank you for listening to the Drums and Rums podcast. If you'd like to help support the podcast and our content on YouTube, become a Drums and Rums Patreon member, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel as we work to get towards 1,000 subscribers. Links are listed in the description of this episode. And thanks again for checking out this episode and all of our other past episodes. Hey all, it's Paul from Drums and Rums with the Backbeats Meets the Spirits. We've got a awesome episode, and I really mean it this time. And we actually have some past guests that are going to be on this episode here. So we've got, first up here on the episode, we have joining us is episode 14, podcast alum Craig Cohen, host of the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network. So welcome, Craig, back onto the show.
Yeah, way back in episode 14. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah, that was years one, right? And we're getting ready for us here in our podcast is our Drums and Rums. We're getting ready to go into the third year here. So that's just it's crazy to look back there. So also, and this is kind of you look back here and say, wow, or at least that's what I said when I was writing up these notes. So also we have on the podcast episode 107. Podcast alums Erika and Tina, host of the A92A podcast. So welcome to the podcast.
Yay!
So back. So yeah, when I was typing that up, I said, wow, there's nearly 100 episodes in between y'all's, time you guys came on the podcast. So
it's crazy how fast they build up.
I know. And for me in the podcast, I went pretty strong since January of 2021 when I made that commitment to do try to get it weekly, try to get more things organized. And as we all know, and we'll talk a little bit about each of our podcasts, is the organization aspect. How do you make it easier? How do you structure it? How do you make it simpler? So it's just not that you love doing it, but then you hate doing it too. It's almost like both sides of the story. It's like, I love it doing this, but I hate doing certain things. And that's where 2021, and then all the way through every week, got through this year, and then the hurricanes hit, and then that kind of my day thing kind of was a lot more kind of involved that I just wasn't able to kind of put a few episodes out. So here we are. Anyway, so
the secret to podcasting, Paul, is do what I do now and just guest appear wherever you can.
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
And then you don't have to worry about like doing too much show prep or editing or anything like that. You just come on, you chat for for however long, and then you wait for the episode to be released so you can promote it.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect. That's what we're doing here.
That's right. Yeah. So Erika and Tina, have you been on other podcasts besides Drums and Rums?
I don't think so. Have we,
No.
Tina?
We haven't. We were contacted by some others. We hadn't worked out any kind of thing yet, but no, you're the only one, and you keep asking us back, which is cool.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I
We'll
guess
just keep doing this one.
I've got no problem with that, right? So, and we have talked about a few things, maybe possibly with our two shows in the near future. So, don't want to say too much, right now. But yeah, no, like I said, I enjoy listening to the podcast. You guys have a great chemistry, and like you said, growing up together. So, those of you that are listening here is like, well, why do I have these three individuals back on the podcast? Well, again, there's a commonality here. When Erika and Tina were on the podcast, and obviously their podcast is in their name of the show is 92 ages. Their whole. I'll let them talk about that again if you haven't listened to their episode. But we all graduated in 1992. So wow, I feel old.
I know, but look how good we all look.
I know.
I mean, we look great.
If they had what's really great is now with the cameras and everything like that, it's like the yearbooks, when you sit down into photo and they're doing all the touch up, finally, you can now have it on your phone, your camera, right? The cameras now do all the touch up.
Perfect.
So, yeah, so with 1992, and we look back and we all have very common. So both Craig and I, we grew up together in New Jersey. We went to high school in the famous Saraville, New Jersey high school, famed by John Bon Jovi.
Greg Evigan.
Yep. Yep.
If
So
anybody remembers BJ and the Bear.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Greg Evigan. That's right. I forgot about that.
And also, he was a year behind us, Paul, but I don't know if you remember this, but Dule Hill.
Oh,
Yeah. He
That-
was like, he had just started acting, I think, because I remember like he did, I think, maybe a Spike Lee movie or something. And then I didn't really think too much about him until Psych came out. And I was like, hey, that's Dule Hill. I used to go to high school with him.
Oh, I'm like, why do I know that name?
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
I know
yeah,
because Psych. I
Yeah.
love that show.
Mhm.
oh,
That was a
no, no, no,
great
no.
show.
I love him from West Wing. We watched him on West Wing for years.
Oh.
So good.
Yeah.
And all right,
He's great.
this is now the Dule Hill podcast fan
Yeah.
cast. So Dule, if you're listening, yeah, so we do remember you, and it's funny because when he was going to school, Dule had played soccer, so obviously it's just you listen. Whenever by the time you listen to this, the World Cup had just finished up, so we used to play soccer with him back then. Yeah, so interesting. Sayreville's just what, Craig? About a half an hour outside of New York, or at least Staten Island, at least.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good, like, if you're throwing darts, like a midway point between New York or Manhattan and Philadelphia.
Right. So we
Central Jersey's like that part where you can live there and not get the accent.
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah, see, I never, when people ask me, it was like, well, whereabouts in New Jersey are you from? And they say, well, I don't know. Like, oh, north. Oh, you're up here. South. Oh, you're down like way down by Atlantic City. Or, so I'm like, I'm not quite sure where I live in New Jersey because it depends on where you are. You identify. I said, we're like in the armpit of the state there, right? Where it kind of comes right in. And so best way to describe where it's at. So, but so we grew up, obviously, went through high school, and I moved to Florida my last year, as I've talked many times on the show. But Craig and I, yeah, we've got, I'm sure we'll share a few stories, growing up, being awkward, teenagers and long hairs and, dirt bags and our denim jackets and all these things and that we used to get called and sit and, and talk about music and I'm sure you guys had very similar things as well. Who was your ultimate band if you put them together? And Craig and I sat in the back of this one class in science class, Mr. I can't even say his name now, but
it was Mr. Klitsky, right?
Yeah. So yeah, talk about trying to go through life with that name and teenagers picking on you, poor guy.
And we went to school. Wasn't his son in our class, like our grade?
Yeah.
Oh.
So so it was interesting there. So, but anyway, so we'll talk a little bit. We'll obviously talk more in and out through the podcast. And again, Craig, I know this first time you're meeting Erika and Tina, and like I said, they've got their podcast. They grew up in the Midwest, far from the bright lights and big city of New York and California and LA, and still, and that kind of goes to show you how MTV, had such an impact on all over, right? Where it was before, as we know, the internet, before all sorts of streaming stuff is how do you get information? You guys, I was listening to one of the episodes you guys did recently. I think it was your episode of your ratings of the bass players. Yeah. So you definitely got to check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and there was, like how you all got your information, right? So you can talk a little bit about that, Erika and Tina, about, how growing up, getting that access to that music or, in the Midwest.
Well, I mean, I think obviously things have changed significantly anyway in the last 30 years. All of us get our information much differently than we did back then. But, when you're growing up in a smaller town in Nebraska, like you mentioned, you're certainly not anywhere close to the club scene in LA or the East Coast club scene. And so you really are trying to gather bits and pieces of information from any source that you can. MTV was a huge resource for us. They had like their newscasts that we would watch, like a regular newscast. Like that's all we cared about was what was happening on MTV that day. We would read Metal Edge magazine, faithfully. And, those were like our two kind of Bibles in terms of understanding what was going on with this music, who was coming out with what album, what the latest video releases were. I mean, that was how we got our info.
Yeah, those magazines were really important, like Metal Edge and Hit Parader. I remember it's so funny when I think about it now. And Erika, you had mentioned like, now, everything's just a Google sort of search away, or, you go to a band's official website or whatever. But like, you would hear about like the next release from Kix, in an interview in Metal Edge where he'd be like, yeah, we're recording the album now, it's so funny because, we're from a time period where like you had no other option but to be patient, and how spoiled I've become, in the internet age. Like now, like I get mad if I can't find whatever I'm looking for, it's wild.
He gets mad because he's still trying to find out, is Kick still working on that album? Yeah.
They never come out. I think the other thing too that none of us really rely on that much anymore is your local radio station, because you also learned who was coming, to your hometown to play a show. That was the only way you learned that. It wasn't, obviously didn't come at you through the internet or anything like that. You might read about a tour kicking off in Metal Edge magazine, but the lag time of that magazine coming out, and you might not even really, know, but your local radio gave you news too.
That's actually a really, really good point, Tina, because we had in Jersey, we had WSOU, which was college radio,
Seton Hall,
and anybody that was coming through playing the club scene, they would stop at WSOU. So, I remember me and my brother actually called up once, and my brother actually talked or got to ask Eric Carr a question from Kiss.
Cool.
So yeah, no, it was I'm so glad you said that, because I didn't even sort of process how important the local radio scene was. And this is from somebody who worked in radio right out of college.
Well, we all wanted to work in radio, right? Because that's where shit was happening. Like the radio station had all the power. Like that's where the contact points were made with the bands. That's how you got backstage. That's how you had an inside scoop as to what was going on in the music industry. So everybody wanted to. I was a station manager at my college for 4 years because radio was just cool. Like everybody wanted to be at radio.
So when we went through, so I had moved, and I've talked about it, my last year of high school. I moved to Florida, and but yeah, Craig, you graduated in '92, and then you went off to college, or you went into engineering, right?
Well, yeah, I went to college and I actually got my degree in audio recording technology. I wanted to be a record producer, and
nice.
I quickly learned that without wealthy parents, that was very, very hard to accomplish. So I kind of pivoted and got into live radio. The live element of it is what appealed to me with radio. And I worked behind the scenes mainly. I did a couple of on-air shifts, but I was a assistant to the chief engineer for a Class C FM and then an AM combo station. And like I said, the live aspect of it is what kind of appealed to me, because in recording, if you screw up, you just start again, you just rewind the tape and start again. And in radio, like that wasn't an option. Like we would do live sporting events, and if you screwed up, you screwed up, and you get yelled at by the GM the next day.
That's why we're taping this. We're actually on a take 35.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, in all our free time.
Yes, yeah, right. So no, and Tina, that, like Greg said, I think that was an excellent point you made. Is that yes, I hate to sound old, right? Kids today, they don't get or remember the way it was. And I was just before everybody joined, Eric and I were chatting about the break that I took from podcasting from December, and then I went ahead and started up another whole show, in the meantime, and it just happened. And one of the episodes I just was talking about was, is what do you listen to in the car? There's so many options now, and there was one of the parts was when I first got satellite radio, probably about 10 years ago. Afterwards, I started realizing, it's like, well, when did these guys come into town? Because now I'm listening to satellite radio, and I lost the localness of listening to local radio, even though it was the same damn friggin' Great White or ZZ Top or whatever on the classic rock station. And especially in South Florida, there isn't a really great hard rock scene or music stations. We had a great alternative station but that went away. And so, but then I was like, oh, I didn't know so and so was coming to the amphitheater. And so, I think that really is a good point. Is you miss out on some of that, and it's interesting how we all obtain our music information. Oh my God, the magazines. Craig and I would go into, and I think I shared the story with them when they were on the episode was our story about Bobby Blitz, walking into the supermarket, and nobody knew who this guy was, and except for me and you, and it was like, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, he was somebody famous because, meanwhile he's just trying to return his videos to the courtesy desk.
Right.
Man, I didn't know Bobby Blitz was a huge, Ernest fan.
Saves Christmas.
Ernest Saves Christmas. Classic.
Yeah. So Erika, Tina, it's again, growing up there in the 90s, from I think what we say it was like 88 to 92. Those are high school years of music and just revolving around, like Craig and I, we're always talking about music or listening to our cassette tapes. Anybody listen to cassette tapes anymore? Are they making a comeback yet?
I don't think so. And I don't think they ever will, because it was probably the shittiest audio quality you could get. So
it was the worst format ever.
The cassette tape era is over. Although Tina and I were just talking on a recent podcast episode, like we are like the generation that sort of like missed vinyl, because vinyl was like before us. And then we were like cassettes and CDs, like that's what we had.
Right.
And then vinyl now has made a huge resurgence, and a lot of, the Gen Zers are buying vinyl when they're purchasing music or consuming music. And so we were like the generation that really missed the whole vinyl thing, but I don't think cassette tapes are going to make a resurgence anytime soon. They were pretty junky.
It was convenient. I mean, I get where the portability was, right? I think that was
the only way to listen to music in your car for a very long time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I love though is when CDs came on, which I was probably, we were definitely in high school by the time we got to CDs. But Tina, I loved the fact that like you could go directly to a song. Like you could like go directly to like track 2, and you didn't have to like fast forward got to track 2 and try to hit it like exactly right, and then rewind it a little and then fast forward. It was just like this like game you were playing to try to get it right on the nose so you could start the song from the beginning.
Yeah, but
you could repeat it too.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You could repeat it. Yeah.
Yeah, but come on, you're missing some fundamental things about cassettes now. Okay, so one, who's making hot mixtapes on a CD, right? Nobody's burning. That wasn't even a thing just yet until Napster and all that came out, right? So there's no mixed CDs until much later on. I know y'all did this, is recording off of the radio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you.
Oh yeah.
It's like, all right, stop talking over the song. I'm trying to record.
Waiting for the song to start so you could hit record. And the damn DJ was always like blabbing over the top of it. So you had like talk and then the song.
Yeah. And then dubbing, if you had a two deck, right, you can actually make copies of your,
copies.
We all bootlegged, and we're all admitting, that we've all committed a crime somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, it's, like I said, Craig and I, when we walked home from school and, and we've got our Walkmans, and I actually still have my Walkman. I don't know if it works, but I actually still have it.
That's awesome. I live in Las Vegas now, so I moved cross country about 7 years ago, and I had to make some tough choices in that move. It's the only way to move cross country. Yeah. You can't bring everything with you. So I think my mom had a pretty kick-ass garage sale when I left.
I bet.
I want to add another use for the cassette tape, because you guys don't know this. Erika and I, we've been friends for 40 years. And when we were in grade school together and then middle school, we used to record ourselves. This is like our early podcast days, right? We would literally just hit record and record our conversations, just messing around on a Friday night or whatever. And we actually have some tapes that have survived that era that include she and I singing Bon Jovi songs, talking about being rock stars, talking about the music we love and the hot guitar players we love and all that stuff. So We're actually fixing to have an episode where we maybe play some of those basement tapes.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
That's amazing. So like what was your gateway like sort of band? Like it's funny with me, like I had an older brother who was about 2.5 years older than me who was into Kiss. So by default I was into Kiss. But I reached that age where like it was probably 7th grade, where I found my own band, and that was AC/DC. And I discovered them. So like I felt like an incredible ownership to them because I'm like, I didn't find this band through my brother. So like, what was your like gateway band that like really started everything for you?
Yeah, well, Erika tells this story about really Motley Crue, but again, like your introduction, introduced to us through our friend Amber's older brother, right? So it was just a little above us that came to us. But then I feel like we just started rapidly discovering Bon Jovi and then Poison, and then they were just kind of coming at us, and we were just open to it at that point. But I feel like Motley Crue was probably the first band of that genre. We were like, holy crap, what is this?
But I remember listening to Motley Crue when I was very, very young. Like that's where I was first exposed to Motley Crue, because it was a Shout at the Devil album,
right?
Which was like early 80s. And so I was probably like 3rd, 4th grade when Shout at the Devil came out. So I was pretty young. I would say though that Tina, probably you and I, as probably our most primary gateway band, probably would have been Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Like we really got into Bon Jovi in a really big way early on. And then everything else, like you said, Tina, just started hitting all at the same time, because they really did. Like all of a sudden the floodgates open and everyone was playing that kind of music. But Bon Jovi for sure was way up there for us.
Yeah, I think actually if I mean, I guess you could argue like Def Leppard might have been more important for this aspect of what I'm about to say, but like I feel like Bon Jovi and then like I said, Def Leppard, they were like this sort of great bridge for people to like go from listening to pop music to listening to like straight up rock music. And I think now it's probably not as important, but I definitely think that like those bands, served a pretty good purpose in terms of, sort of getting people away from like, pop music into rock and roll. And then God knows where they went from there.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I think an important part of the MTV that was very early was before Headbangers Ball, before the real explosion of hair metal, the genre, is the Friday night video fights. I think that was right, because
Friday night videos.
Yeah, right. Because then you're usually, I just remember it seemed like a time period where it was always a Def Leppard or Quiet Riot were always up against. They were staying. So again, to your point, Craig, is Def Leppard was, and Eric and Tina, on one of the episodes you guys were just talking about was with Bobby Blotzer, was how their music style was very pop. Of course, they probably wouldn't accept the fact that they were being referred to as pop, but again, it was very much a catchy, the good rhythm, good that white people can dance to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really good, solid rhythm, and I think Def Leppard obviously very much similar to. I mean, it's very catchy and so forth.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, pop stands for popular. And during that time frame, like that 4, 5, 6 year period, like this was the music. This was the music that was at the top of the Billboard charts, that was on MTV 24/7. Like this was the popular music. So it may not be pop in the sense that later on it became Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys and all of these other types of bands, but it certainly was the most popular music of the decade in a lot of ways. And so, and there was a ton of crossover. It was a type of music that you could listen to if you were a rocker, but you could also listen to if you were a 13-year-old girl and listening to the power ballads. There was a lot of crossover there, and everybody was listening to it. And that's the thing I think people forget. Like there was a time when everyone was listening to this music.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like it's funny. I saw Rat. Speaking of Bobby Blotzer, I saw Rat at like the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, Long Island, where the Islanders used to play. Like that's like a 15,000 seat arena. And if you even look at it, like if people are listening and they haven't sort of seen it, just Google Heavy Metal Parking Lot, which is, I think, in Maryland, outside of a Judas Priest concert. Yeah. And sort of the mixing pot of people you see there is kind of wild too, because you see like, you know, your typical, you know, as Paul said, you know, dirt bags, but then you've got like some posers, and you've got some, you know, some jocks and everything. And I think as funny as it is to watch now, I think Heavy Metal Parking Lot is really a great sort of snapshot of what it was to be a music fan back then. And the other thing you got from that is also that like people went to shows more just for the social aspect of it, not always for the band. It was just a way to get together with other young people.
Or meet girls, right? Like we hear that a lot, especially with this genre.
We tried. You know? We
tried,
Erika.
Girls went there, and so the guys followed.
Yeah, we tried. We tried. I'm not going to say if we were successful or not, but
no, I'll straight up say I wasn't successful. And man, if I had the knowledge I had now.
Well, Tina and I needed men there so that we could sit on their shoulders, because we did that a lot at shows. You know, it was all GA, you're all standing, you're young girls, you can't see anything. You needed to find like some friendly guys who would let you like sit on their shoulders so you could see. It was a very important part of the whole process.
All right, Erika. Wow. Erika, it's your and my turn to get an animal in the camera shot here now.
Yeah, no, the 4-month-old puppy is not coming in. I can tell you that right now. It would be utter chaos.
God.
Oh, yeah. It you know, I still remember some of the trips that Craig and I and his brother took up to Newark, right? And again, you know, nowadays, it was like I wouldn't even go there even as an adult now, kind of thing. And you know, it was a small club, and we saw, you know, I get, what would you consider that, Craig? It B level, C level bands that we had saw that we knew about, right?
Yeah, I mean, bands that you would probably see like really, really like probably in like the last half hour of Headbangers Ball. You know, like, you know, either bands that, you know, I mean, you didn't really have, you know, nowadays if you see a band, it's you either see them coming up or coming down.
Right.
Back then you didn't really see anybody coming down, so you were seeing bands like on the way up. And between Studio One, Paul, and then Club Benet, we saw some pretty, you know, wild acts came through Club Benet as well, which yeah, I mean, like they're probably like, you know, the size of the top floor of my house here. I mean, just really small venues. Yeah. You know, it's kind of mind blowing now.
The who was it? Just trying to I remember seeing Love Hate, you know, or Spread Eagle, you know, some of those bands. It's like, again, you're like, oh my God, you know, really, you know. But again, they had very raw. I mean, some of those bands were very raw edge kind of thing. And at least with Love Hate, you know, I think they had a little bit more. People probably know of the name, or at least obviously their lead singer, you know, Jizzy Pearl.
Yeah, he's singing for Quiet Riot now.
Oh, wow. Everybody just is a you know, ancestral moves around to other bands now.
Yeah, that's
like,
for sure.
Who is it? Oh, not Don Dock, and why am I drawing a blank? Jeff Pilson, right, is now.
Yeah, he's with Foreigner, right? Now, isn't he?
I'm like, wouldn't he kick his own ass for being in that band, right, back in the day?
Well, Foreigner is also one of those. They're one of the few bands that's out there touring that have no members from like their even their core lineup. You know, you can't even say their original lineup, their core lineup. Like, I think Mick Jones, the guitar player, I think he plays like very, very select gigs. And like, I don't even know if they announce whether or not he's going to be there. So there's people that are going to see Foreigner, and it's
cover band,
not Foreigner.
Tribute band. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Paul, I feel like we should jump into our questions.
Yes.
Because we're starting to cross over into some
trivia questions.
Yes. Okay. Is that a hint?
Is question related.
All right.
So, because Paul, you know, the reason that we're here really is to have a face off between New Jersey and Nebraska.
That's right.
Class of 92.
Recording in progress.
All right. So I totally forgot to hit record on all that in the video, but I've been recording audio the whole time. So, well, at least so, I mean, that's a stupid me. Again, it's all these buttons you have to push, but at least I've been recording
technology,
recording local, and then we've been recording.
Well, you're recording the most important part, which is this part right here,
yes,
where we're going to do this trivia competition.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Although my dogs are a little mad that they got camera time that was not captured, and now they're both they're both
The dogs
sleeping.
are pissed and demanding royalties.
I'm actually happy you did not get my cat's butt on video.
There you go.
So.
Yes, yeah. So you, if you're listening to the audio part, or if you're watching this, you'll have to listen to the audio of the podcast because you're going to miss the references that we're going to make about that we didn't actually record on video. So, but so anyway, so yeah, so like Eric said, we've got here to get to the main event. Here is we were chatting, like I said, when I was on their podcast, and I said, oh man, I said I got a friend. We also went to graduate in '92. You know, so there's a lot of similarities. We grew up listening to music and sitting in the back of the classroom doodling and on the notepads and so forth. And I said, we gotta do a trivia. We gotta do some trivia here. Let's see if I, if we've got what it takes. I told, Craig, I says, Erika and Tina, they know their stuff. Well,
we'll see. I mean, you can get pretty deep into some of these questions, and so it depends on how tough your questions are. But Tina and I actually, we just read this book, Nothing But a Good Time. I don't know if you guys have ever read it.
Oral history.
So I feel like I'm recently brushed up on all that I need to know.
So I shouldn't have picked all nothing but poison trivia questions then, right? Yeah, I knew better to stay away from Motley Crue and Nikki Sixx, right? Because Erika knows everything.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, Erika knows stuff about Nikki Sixx, and Nikki Sixx doesn't even know about because he doesn't remember it.
Accurate.
All right, so I don't know. So I guess I don't know. We'll I'll just say this that this is my show, so I'll say that we'll go first. So we'll go with the first question here. So I'll go ahead and right out the gate. It is actually question number 1 from the East Coast team here. It is a Motley Crue reference. So let's see if you get this. Okay. All right. So what type of car was Vince Neil driving when he got into an accident that killed Razzle?
I want to, Eric, I think I
have 2 in my brain right now, and I'm not sure which one it is.
I want to say it's a Ferrari.
That's what I want to say.
It's close. It's a very
was it a Lamborghini?
No. It's a car that is very similar to a supercar like that. And I'll give you a hint. There was a thrash metal band name.
I know it, Paul. Yeah.
All right, so
thrash metal is not really our jam.
No, I know, but you'll know.
There were no hot guys playing thrash metal.
All right, and remember, send all your questions and mail to Erika at if you're a thrash metal guy, listen to this. All right.
Sorry, thrash metal.
Actually, Paul, I know the answer because
it's us. It's us.
Yeah.
Us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is your clue helped me. Well, no, your clue helped me, but also I kind of knew this answer because when I was a kid, my dad worked at a tire shop, and he actually was in the shop when the guys from Vanilla Fudge came in to buy tires for this type of car.
Tina, I still don't know it.
Okay.
Not helpful.
They were big in the 90s, right? So, and again, I know it's not.
Actually, they're on a quote unquote reunion tour now
with 2 of the 4 original members, because 2 of the members were brothers that died. One died on stage.
Well, didn't die on stage. He was murdered on stage.
Okay, yes, he was murdered on stage. All right.
Are we talking about Dimebag?
Oh, you're getting closer.
Okay.
What band is it?
Pantera.
There you go. Yes.
That's not the name of the car. That's the car?
Okay.
Yes. It was actually the name of the car.
We clearly don't know about thrash metal or cars.
Now, Paul, do you remember if they actually used that car, like that type of car in the dirt on Netflix?
I don't remember if they used I would assume they had to have, but I'd have to go back and watch that. But again, I have to get through the opening scene of the dirt where it's that party. It's like, wow, talk about an opening of a movie. Like, okay,
it leaves nothing to the imagination.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, this is definitely not a movie that I can watch when the kids are just at least in the other room.
No. No.
We didn't share answers, so I actually thought, ladies, I thought it was a Ferrari as well.
Yeah,
So-
that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we did not get that point. And now I'm starting to wonder if our questions are going to be much easier.
Uh-oh.
We'll see.
The next one,
I just assumed that we were all going to get every question wrong because we were trying to just like stump each
Trying
other.
to like best each other.
All right. So you got your guys' turn.
Tina, you go. You throw out a question.
Okay, I'm going to throw out this question. Frontman Kelly Hansen of 80s metal band Hurricane went on to sing for which great classic rock band still touring today?
You got it, Craig?
Paul? I got it. I know why Erika cut us off now. He's singing for Foreigner.
Oh, okay.
So
he's for the East Coasters.
Yeah. And by the way, Kelly Hansen is an amazing vocalist, and Foreigner is going on their farewell tour in 2023. So, make sure to get there. And
he's also he's been with Foreigner for long enough now to actually
25 years.
Be considered legit. You know what? I think we might have seen Hurricane, Paul. I don't know if it was after you moved, but I kind of feel like me and my brother saw them. Although there was another band called Hurricane Alice as well. I might be thinking of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We love Hurricane. We talk about Hurricane quite a bit on the podcast because we're such big fans of Kelly Hansen. And actually, I love Kelly Hansen with Foreigner. I think he brings a lot to that puzzle. And so I've booked them before. We didn't talk about this, but I actually book shows and in the concert business. But I've booked Foreigner before, and I think they're phenomenal live. And I love Kelly's voice. It's still as strong as ever. He's a great vocalist.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And also his last name is the same as mine. We could be related. You don't know.
Is he's got the E, not the O?
Oh, he's got the E, yeah.
Oh, so you just tell people you're married to him.
I should.
That is so wild that we ended up talking about Foreigner, and I don't even remember how we got there.
I know, random.
It's Paul's fault because he started talking about Jeff Pilson.
That's right. That's right. So now you did remember how we got there. So all right, anyway. All right, Craig. So you're up here. So your first question.
Okay, give us a question.
Okay. So, what state did Skid Row record their self-titled debut album in?
I feel like this is a trick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any multiple choice?
I feel like they put them in the middle of the country, like in Wisconsin. At a golf course. Was it Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
You got it.
Whoa! Yeah.
Yes. We got it, Tina. Fist bump.
It was a golf course. It was like a golf course, right? Like it was some weird kind of situation.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to stump you guys with that. Excellent.
Shit, you stumped me.
Yeah.
Okay, so one for the Midwestern.
There you go. All right. So is it?
We need to go harder.
Is it?
I know, Tina. I think our questions are way too easy.
Is it tied up?
I don't know. You got that question pretty quick. I mean,
we didn't get the Pantera. We thought it was
All right, so it's our turn.
Okay, so I'll throw one out now. Which two rockers comprise the band name Guns N' Roses?
Okay, Paul, you want to take this one?
All right, so Tracy Guns and Axl Rose.
Okay. Yes. Very good. Okay. East Coasters won.
I got a cool Tracy Gunn story. So when they reunited within the last couple of years, because there were the dueling LA Guns for a while. But when Tracy and Phil Lewis got back together, they played a club here in Vegas called Count's Vamped, and you probably know the Count.
We were just there.
Yeah,
they just had a couple more shows there.
Yeah, I saw them probably 2 years ago there, and it was the loudest stage guitar I've ever heard. I had hearing protection, and when I got home, my ears were still ringing.
Wow.
Tracy was like, "I'm just going to turn my stage volume up as loud as possible." I was in awe. I was just like, "Wow!" You probably heard it on the strip.
Yeah, that's on brand. We interviewed Tracy on our podcast this past year. He's actually a really great guy. It was a fun interview.
Cool. I'm gonna have to go in your archives and
Yeah.
and check some of your episodes out. It's your turn, Paul, right? So we're
Yep.
two points for us, 1 point for you guys, right?
Yes.
All right. So you guys should get this one. Okay. So what year did MTV launch?
Oh, Jesus.
It was 81 or 82.
All right. Yep. 81. There you go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay, you said 81 first. So
It actually.
I mean, all of us were young then.
I know.
We were like in first or second grade.
All right. So for bonus points, what was the first video?
Video killed the radio.
the radio star.
And so they launched on actually, and I'm gonna say it because I want you to remember now. So they launched on August 1st, 1981.
August 1st, 1981.
Okay.
Yep, my birthday.
I knew it was fall.
So I
Oh,
expect.
your
I would expect.
birthday. Happy birthday. What was the second video played?
You got me.
It was actually Pat Benatar, You Better Run. And because Neil Jardo played on that, it was the first guitar to play on MTV.
Oh.
Because there was
Right.
a guitar in video
okay.
radio star.
Yeah,
I
they just,
remember
they
that.
just got
You know
inducted.
what?
They just got inducted too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super cool. And Rod Stewart was third, just saying.
Okay.
That's all I know. Just the
And
That's it.
fourth was.
All right. So it's tied.
Okay,
Is it
Tina,
tied?
you ask a question.
2-2,
you ask
right?
a question next.
Yeah, it's 2-2.
Okay.
Okay. What documentary on 80s metal was directed by the same person who directed the movie Wayne's World? Name
Look.
both the documentary and the director.
Okay, I got this one, Paul.
Wayne Isham.
No. I said I got this one, Paul.
Oh, sorry. I heard my name.
It's Penelope Spheris is the director, and the movie is, or the documentary is, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years.
The metal
Very good.
years. Very good, Craig. Great documentary.
Oh yeah, it's
Great documentary.
That's got the classic Chris Holmes in the
Oh,
pool.
With his mom. Yeah.
So cringe movie.
Wait, did you guys interview the girl, the Miss Club girl?
Miss Gazzari? No,
Yes.
we can't find her.
Oh.
Cindy Bermisa?
Isn't she on Instagram? She's
can't
on
find her.
She's on Instagram though.
She is?
I
She's on
thought.
social. She's
Yeah.
on
Okay.
social.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We'll
yeah,
have
you
to
gotta
track
listen.
her down.
You gotta listen to that episode.
Maybe she can be, yeah, she should be our next interview, Tina.
Oh, that would.
Do it.
Where are they now?
Are they okay?
Yeah.
All right, so that's 3 for us.
Yep. Okay. Another one for us.
Okay, so it's my turn, right, Paul?
Mhm.
Okay. Rudy Sarzo famously played bass for Whitesnake. Name 2 other artists he has played bass for.
Well, there's Quiet Riot.
Quiet Riot.
Mm-hmm.
And did he play for Ozzy?
Yes, he did. Ding, 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 ding.
Very good. Excellent work.
And he's currently playing with, he's back with Quiet Riot. And prior to that, he was playing with, was it Grand Funk Railroad, I want to say?
Oh wow.
I love Rudy Sarzo. I
Oh,
think
he's great.
Yeah, we love the Starzos.
Yeah, and we have 2 Yorkies here, and he actually is pretty active in a Yorkie rescue out of California.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mhm.
So cute.
Yeah. No, he's great. All right.
All right,
Wow.
just to tie it up.
Okay, so I'm going to do a follow-up question, and it's kind of similar to the one that you just gave us. Name 2 bands of which iconic guitarist Slash has been a member.
Okay. Are we counting Guns N' Roses?
I guess you can, although we should have taken that one away.
I know, right?
Yeah. Paul, do you have an answer?
Why am I drawing a blank? Go ahead. I know he's with the one with Scott Weiland. Why am I drawing?
Yeah, Velvet
Oh,
Revolver.
Yep.
And then I also don't know if you want to count. If you want me to earn it, Erika, we can say Slash's Snake Pit.
There we go. Very good. You fully earned it.
Good
Oh.
question.
All right. So is it my turn?
Yeah.
All right. So here we got a little bit of a karaoke here. So I want to hear your best. You get ready? Y'all ready? All right.
Ready.
So I want to hear your best Sebastian Bach. Okay. So finish this line from Skid Row's 18 in Life. Tequila in his heartbeat. His veins burned.
Gasoline.
There you go. There you
Got
go.
this motor running.
Well,
But
wait,
never
no.
existed.
No, I said I had to hear the singing part of it. Can we hear the actual?
Erika, you go ahead and answer that one.
Tina's the one that karaoke's, not me.
In the backyard.
All right. So there we go. So all right. So now, was it 3-3?
No, I think 4. It's
4.
You guys have 4 and we have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, or something.
Okay. All right.
We're one behind you because we got the first one wrong.
Yeah. Okay. What is the band that never got signed but launched the careers of several 80s metal rockers, including Nikki Sixx and Izzy Stradlin?
Oh, goodness. Wow, Tina, you're really
No, Craig, it's like a name of a country or state or something, a place, people, place, and
God,
things.
it's like on the
London.
Yes.
Very good.
nice pull, Paul.
Nice save.
I think I only remember that from reading the Dirt. There was other stuff.
That was an excellent question, and that is actually a really cool bit of trivia as well.
Mm-hmm.
They were featured heavily in The Decline of Western Civilization too, as well. It was just sort of like this launching pad, and they lived in that camper and just kind of rolled around town and had women buy them groceries. But yes, London.
Can you imagine being the band and it's like, hey, when is it my turn to get promoted up to the next level?
Yeah,
that's there was
London, the sad tragic story of London.
I had because I had reading The Dirt was just that book and their perspectives and each of their, it was interesting, each of the different chapters about each of their parts of their life and telling their story. And obviously, how do you turn that book, right? And they did, into a movie about it, which is, it's almost insane. It's like, I was like, yeah, if they ever make this a movie, it's gonna have to be like NC-17, or it's definitely not something that's
right.
And thank God for things like Netflix. But just him talking about growing up, right? Nikki Sixx and all that, I don't know. It was always I really think about you trade some of the things in how your upbringing, if for things that people that had struggles and a terrible upbringing, to be a rock star or be someone famous, right? And that's tough, right? Obviously he had a very bad upbringing and you're being raised by his grandparents, right? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, for a large portion of his life. Yeah.
All kinds of relatives and
Yeah. So another book, is I picked up was Steven Adler's book. That's an actually an interesting book. Obviously being a drummer and kind of reading through his things, and I'm like, and somebody made a reference about talking about Slash, and maybe it was, I think your guys is one of the recent episodes was talking about how Slash seems like a pretty cool guy, very almost no bad bone in his body, and but also it seemed like he never really stuck up for Steven, as good as friends as they were. The shit he went through with Axl and other stuff, and again, he gets kicked out of band for doing heroin, but the whole damn band's doing that was the irony, right? But
well, Steven had a lot of stuff going on at that point. The one thing you can say about Slash is Slash might have been indulging in whatever he indulged in, but he was still able to sort of perform. And I hate to say this, but like Guns N' Roses definitely outgrew Steven Adler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Guns N' Roses outgrew everybody but Axl.
Yeah, that's definitely one side of it. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's wild because we all remember Appetite, and like when Guns N' Roses came out and they were like considered a band, whereas now it really is just, and even like by the time of Use Your Illusion, Axl had really sort of asserted his control there. I think about Guns N' Roses a lot, and like how it's been 30 years since Use Your Illusion, and that was their last big statement. And like they were sort of in the grand scheme of rock and roll, they were there for a very short period of time, but I mean, they're still selling out stadiums and arenas. I mean, it's
worldwide.
it's
Yeah.
wild.
They're
It is
they're
A huge
they're
impact.
their staying power was short in that sense of how big and known they, and again, it's all the other things that went into the allure and the mystery of that band, right? All the craziness and that it's that's a good point.
You can only get so big before before it gets too big. Some cool Guns N' Roses trivia. I don't know, Paul, you did you go see Guns N' Roses and Metallica Faith No More at Giant Stadium with us?
Nope, I think I was already in Florida by then.
All right. That, if you want some Craig Cohen trivia, that was the first concert I ever got stoned at.
Oh,
It was a communal joint. It was the true Puff Puff Pass experience.
Oh boy. Good thing COVID wasn't around.
wow, that's surprise. That's something I didn't know. So there you go.
God knows who I shared a joint with that day.
You're right.
Hey, Paul, you moved to Florida and shit just went downhill fast.
I know, that's it. It's all my fault that his life went to.
Well, the even crazier thing is, like, now, I don't know in your individual states, but I know here in California, like, I can walk to a dispensary down the street and get some like good like medical grade cannabis, and I actually take it like in an aspirin now, and it's just like, I take it before I go to bed and I sleep like a baby. But I guess we'll save that for the cannabis episode, Paul.
That's a different episode of this podcast.
Hey, there you go. There, I know. I'm always messaging the girls on social media. I'm like, hey, this would be a great idea for an episode. Or how about this? There you go, drugs and rock and roll. There you go. So
yeah. Perfect.
Is it our turn?
Yes. I just asked the question about. Wait, did I? About London.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask the last question from our team, Paul?
So I read.
Oh no, you asked the Skid Row lyric, right?
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah.
So, okay. So Scott Travis has been the drummer for Judas Priest since 1989. Who did he replace?
Now, to be fair, Craig, this isn't really in their swim lane.
It's metal.
In Craig's defense, we literally just read Rob Halford's memoir, and neither one of us are going to be able to pull this. I can't pull this name out.
Oh, I don't think I can pull that one out.
Did he have a nickname?
No, just a very run-of-the-mill name.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, I know they had revolving drummer syndrome.
He was their drummer prior to Scott Travis. This guy was their drummer. Like, he played with the band in the the US Festival. Mm-hmm. He looked like somebody's dad, which was funny.
Yeah, I don't know the name.
I can't know the name.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, it was Dave Holland.
Okay. Still don't know the name.
That did not live in my brain and did not get deposited forever.
No.
Oh wow. So how was Rob's book? I've been thinking about reading that.
It was great.
Yeah.
Great. And we don't really talk about Judas Priest on the podcast at all. Because we really do focus more on like that almost kind of like glam era of 80s metal. And certainly Judas Priest wasn't really that. They were, they'd been around for years by the time this whole scene showed up. But that book really turned me into a Judas Priest fan. Like, I thought Rob Halford's telling of his story was great. I thought he wrote really well and told his story really well. I actually listened to a chunk of it on audiobook, which he told himself. And I just thought it was fascinating. I kind of became a Judas Priest fan after reading that book.
Awesome. I actually became a legitimate Priest fan during COVID. I discovered them while just looking for stuff to do while I was furloughed at work. And that's when I was like, you know what, I'm going to like really get into their catalog and like really see what they're about, because it's funny as a metalhead, at least in my experience as like a metalhead, Judas Priest were always they always seemed like the, I don't know if like Party City is the right word, but like they always just seemed like too leathery and and now why like Halford leaned into it as heavily as he did. And I actually think that like Priest gave a lot of glam metal bands like a license to do what they did. But at the time, I never really, and also like I think the time I was really getting to music on my own is like during the turbo era, where like I'm really into like keyboards and synths now, but like back then I was like, come on, guys, like
was it metal?
turbo, yeah. But I actually got the last Priest album I needed to complete like the series of remasters they did a couple of years back where like it spells out the whole band name when you put all the CDs together.
Oh, cool.
I finally found the last one I needed. It was like completing a puzzle piece. That's wild. I'm definitely going to read that book now.
It was great.
You guys have seen obviously the Rockstar movie, right? And how it was loose or based on the whole Judas Priest, situation. Yeah. So
not to get into a whole Priest thing here, but I listened back to back 2 times yesterday. Actually, I was in the car doing Christmas shopping, so I was driving all around the valley here, and I listened to Painkiller twice. And it's amazing to me that Painkiller is like sort of this, it's a really, really good heavy metal album, but that like Halford left after that. It blows my mind that like they
left on top.
They reached, well, I guess that's what it is, Paul. They reached like this peak, and then Halford was like, okay, I'm out of here. Like,
it's interesting the way he tells the story of that, because it almost was a misunderstanding that he was too embarrassed to go back and clear up. So when he said, I'm going to go do some solo stuff, he didn't mean I'm leaving the band. He meant, while we're not doing this, I'm going to do some other things. And it kind of got away from him. And then a publicist announced he'd left the band and all this kind of stuff. And he was sort of like, wait, I didn't mean that. But was too embarrassed and went years and years and years longing to be back with the band, but didn't know how to approach the guys and talk about it. So it's an interesting part of their story.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Did you all watch the Judas Priest Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction?
I missed that chunk of it. I have not seen it yet.
Oh my God. It's so good because it's so funny that nowadays with band politics and replacement members, it's always like getting all the people on stage together is always like really, really difficult. So like, I think back to like some of my favorite Hall of Fame induction moments are like when Yes got inducted, and there was like 2 versions of Yes at that point, but they all got back on stage. Geddy Lee played bass since Chris Squire had passed away. And with Judas Priest, KK Downing, who's no longer in the band, and he left under very, very bad terms, KK Downing was on stage standing right next to his replacement, Richie Faulkner. And to see the 2 of them on stage together playing, and Glenn Tipton on the other sides of the stage battling through Parkinson's to play his parts, I mean, it's worth checking out. It's always amazing to see like bands get beyond like the politics and like all bullshit aside. It was like for that 10 minutes, they were able to do what they did. And like,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, as a Kiss fan, it was really hard for like to see them get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and like everybody's ego got in the way of them suiting up and playing on stage together.
Yeah. I mean, even Bon Jovi, even John and Richie reunited for that. It's important that's the whole reason you're being honored, is that core group. If you were a part of that, you were a part of this thing, this magical thing. Right. So,
I think, and even like Guns N' Roses, when they were inducted, Adler came back on, and and Sorum was with them for obviously the big Use Your Illusion stuff, and it's good to see. I mean, unfortunately, one of the bands we just talked about was Skid Row, and everyone keeps calling for them, and I just saw the announced, because again, like we said, right, Tina, it was local radio. Local radio is not going to let me know that Skid Row's coming to Fort Lauderdale next year in March. But it was, thank God, I had like signed up for some ticket thing or whatever alert that I found out. I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, I'm going to reach out to them, and I'm going to try to get them on the show, and again, play up the whole, hey, hey, you remember me thing or whatever. But that's another band. It's like, it just runs too deep to say, can you put things aside? Everybody wants you to get back together.
Yeah.
And
That's got to be the most frustrating thing, though, Paul, because like at this point, it's been almost 30 years
yeah, I know.
since Sebastian Bach
I mean,
sang
and I know
for
that
Skid Row.
they don't
like,
want it right. They don't want it for the money, but at the same time, I don't know.
And Skid Row's new singer is amazing, Eric
Yeah.
He
Rodwell.
is.
Yeah.
Oh God,
And-
incredible.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to disrupt that new partnership either, just for the sake of saying the original lineups back
Right.
together kind of thing, right? I
Well,
mean,
like-
same with Rat, same with Great White, same with
Yep.
LA Guns. There's been a split on a lot of these bands.
Right. And they'd have to get, well, again, if you're going to go all in, you'd have to say, if you're going to go all the way to extent to somehow make it work with Sebastian and the guys, the three core guys, you'd have to get Rob back, which I don't think Rob's, has any interest. I don't know, but Rob's kind of been doing his own business thing. I did look into what Rob's doing, but
he still plays though, because he
Yeah.
replaced what was that band 4 by Fate? It's like two of the guys from Ace Frehley's band and the drummer. The drummer died and Rob replaced him on a tour, I guess. I don't remember who the drummer was though.
Yeah.
But either way,
Anyway.
that would have been a good trivia question.
And
All
nobody
right.
was really.
all right. So I guess it's y'all's turn here. So, all right.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
I think it's your turn, Erica.
Okay. I feel like this one should be pretty easy. Which famous Hollywood club hosted a weekly dance contest for women on the Strip and also crowned an annual winner? Like Cindy Burmese or Burmisa. What the hell was her name?
Cindy Baramisa.
Cindy Burmisa.
I have a guess, Paul, if you don't know the answer.
I'm drawing a blank on what it was again, but we just talked about it.
Is it the Whiskey A Go-Go?
No.
Oh, is it the Viper Room?
No.
Oh.
It's Gazzari's.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was in the video you made reference to.
Yeah. So now we're tied.
Yeah, and you guys were worried about easy questions?
See, I would have gotten that wrong. See, I
I
didn't.
feel like the ones that are left are pretty damn easy. So
I thought that was right. I thought he just owned the whiskey. Maybe I didn't pay attention enough, but okay. So
no, he did not. No.
And I was-
No,
obviously-
Bill Gazzari had his own thing going, and in Decline Western Civilization, they show a lot about that dance contest. And the winner of that year was Cindy Baramisa, and you might remember she was pretty drunk and said she wanted to continue on with her actressing. That's what she said when they asked her what was next for her. And then we just learned something really funny after reading this Nothing But a Good Time, this history of this genre, is that Christina Applegate saw that and thought it was so hilarious that she modeled her character on Married with Children after Cindy Baramisa.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's hilarious.
no,
Yeah.
that's some real good trivia for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually been looking for an excuse to rewatch that movie because it's been probably over a decade since I watched it. So now I definitely have a reason to watch it.
You don't need an excuse. I'll literally watch it for no reason at all.
That's it. We're gonna have a Patreon watch party here. So that's
There we
just
go.
Love it.
Perfect.
we all got to somehow make money off these podcasts, right? Somehow. All right. So I don't
think
know.
it's-
Was it you or was it me, Craig? What
I think it's your turn, Paul,
is it mine? Okay.
to ask a question.
All right. What band were Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter in before Slaughter?
Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
Oh, boom.
yes.
All right. Uh-oh, man, it's getting good. It's coming down to the wire now.
Yeah, we're evenly matched.
Uh,
Can you
love
imagine being the namesake of a band and getting kicked out and the record deal goes with the guys that kicked you out? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't fare too badly in that whole debacle.
all right.
Okay.
and Dana Strum's got a side gig with Vince Neil now. When Vince Neil's not doing Motley Crue.
Hmm.
Well, interestingly enough, Dana Strum has kind of like moved into the business side of the industry. So
That's
he,
what
I think, like,
manages, right?
yeah, he like manages bands and has like different artists that he represents. So yeah, he's more of like a business guy now, but still playing with these random bands, Slaughter or what have you on the side. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Very cool. All right. So
Gina.
Okay. Which 80s metal band penned epic 80s metal ballads like I Saw Red and Heaven?
Okay. You know this one, Paul?
yep.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So I think somebody's got a warrant for an arrest warrant.
Ding, ding,
My
ding.
Ding, 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 yes.
favorite 80s metal ballad band of all time is Warrant. I'm a huge fan.
It's and we saw that was one. No, I don't think you went to this one, Craig. I went with your brother and his buddy, and it was in up there in the Meadowlands. Poison, Poison, Warrant, and maybe Trickster. Can't remember who the opener was.
Yes.
I think they were on tour together.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Well, Trickster was from North Jersey, and actually, I saw Trickster when they opened for Kiss.
Yes, yep, Firehouse, and right, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow,
We
they
also
just,
interviewed PJ Farley on our
that's
podcast
right. They just had
really?
yeah.
from Trickster and
Yeah.
talked about that package that you just mentioned because we saw that same package in Sioux City. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder why I didn't go to that, Paul.
It was like on a Sunday, I think. Or there was something that was odd that I remember,
It was a school night, and I couldn't stay up late.
or some maybe I don't know.
Parents said no.
Yeah,
Wow, that's wild.
only one son. Only one son's allowed out of the house. Oh my
All
God,
right.
yeah. All right.
All right, Craig, it's your turn. Lay it on
Okay.
us.
Staying, it seems like I have a bunch of bass player questions. So, staying in that lane, name the bass player and co-founder of the band Queensryche.
Ooh, I do not know anybody's name in Queensryche except for Jeff Tate.
I'm literally same. Like I only know Jeff Tate's name. I do not know anyone else in that band.
All right. He's still a member, so it's pretty wild. Paul, do you know it?
Is it DeGarmo?
No, he was one of the two guitar
All right.
players.
So Rockenfeld was the drummer.
The drummer. He was
Right.
the other co-founder of the band. It was co-founded by Rockenfeld and Eddie Jackson.
Yeah, I'm not.
Eddie, the only Eddie Jackson I know is the one on Food Network. He's an African American gentleman that used to play in the NFL, and he is amazing in the kitchen.
Oh wow! Okay.
I did not know that Eddie Jackson.
That name doesn't even jog any kind of memory for me.
No.
It's
He
very-
definitely was not in the life hat.
It's
Tina.
very yeah. All right.
Okay, well now you guys are ahead again. Tina, is it your turn to ask? Or is it my turn? It's my turn,
I
right?
think it's your turn, yeah.
Okay. Name the famous nightclub and restaurant duo on the Sunset Strip where bands played and then ate and partied.
So that was the Whiskey A Go Go.
You got half of it right.
So there's two answers. So the club where they played and then the restaurant where they ate.
Was it Musso and Frank's?
No. That's a great restaurant though.
Paul, do you have a guess?
I have one. I know this now.
Oh,
It was the Rainbow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. The rainbow.
Goodness. Yeah, I just had a visual of Lemmy sitting
Yeah.
like
There you go.
in a
His shorts.
booth being interviewed there.
Short shorts.
Absolutely.
And then I remembered that's where Rainbow, I think, got the name for the band Rainbow came from.
Could be.
I think so.
Have you
That
been,
makes
Craig?
sense.
Have you been there? Have you been to those clubs?
No, actually, I've only been to like Hollywood. Like that's technically Hollywood, right, Tina?
Yeah.
I've only been to Hollywood once. And I was there actually when I was still living in Jersey. I came to Anaheim for a work convention, and I actually played hooky one afternoon, and we drove out to LA, saw a movie at the Chinese Theater,
Okay.
and found like Kiss's Star on the Walk of Fame and stuff like that. But we never really found our way over. And since then, I've been to LA a bunch of times, but I've never actually been in like that section of the Strip.
Yeah, it's a pretty iconic area of the Sunset Strip, and it's still like that. Actually, you go see shows at the Whiskey, and you walk down the street to the Rainbow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I believe that within the last 2 weeks, Strawberry Alarm Clock have played shows at the Whiskey, which is
Wow. That's a blast from the past.
Incense and Peppermints. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Crazy.
You're really showing your age, Craig.
We're all the same age.
So good.
yeah. I'm actually pretty excited. Erika, you mentioned vinyl recently or earlier in the episode, and I've actually, my dad was like, at the stage in his life where he's starting to like declutter his life. So he texted me back in the spring and he's like, hey, you want some of my old records? And I was like, absolutely. So then I was like, oh, I have to buy a record player. So he sent me some records, and then Vegas has some really good record stores. So actually about a month ago in the $2 bin, I actually found that Strawberry Alarm Clock album.
Oh,
So,
nice. Very nice.
I'm like king of the cutout bins. Like I'll go in, I'll be like, I got $8 to spend. Let's see how many albums I can come out with.
I think LA Guns is actually playing New Year's Eve at the Whiskey.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
It'll be a fun show.
You'll probably hear them in your house.
I know. I'll be in Palm Springs, but yeah.
I'm telling you, like Tracy's
You might hear him in Palm Springs.
I might.
stage volume is so loud.
Yeah.
So who's
Paul, I think it's your turn,
Is
right?
it my turn? All right, that's my last question. So number 5. Okay, so it is a Bon Jovi question. So it is a video reference question. In the video for Bad Medicine, what comedian was speaking at the beginning of the video? They happen to be all standing out in the line, waiting to get in.
I have a guess, Tina. Do you know it?
I'm not sure.
You want to phone a friend?
It's one of two.
What are you thinking? Tell me your tip.
Well, Andrew Dice Clay.
You're in the
Must
you're in
not
the
be it.
range. You're in the range of that time, that era of median time.
I- Kinnison.
Or was it the Sam guy?
Kinnison.
Yep,
Yes.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
That was my guess, but then I was like, was he already dead by then? And then
I know.
and I couldn't remember.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, that whole Sam Kinison heavy metal moment with like Wild Thing and all
Oh, yeah.
that.
Oh,
that went
yeah.
down was such a weird moment in time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
Like,
in
what's
so
happening?
if
Fawn Hall on the ground rolling around and mud.
and all those rockers that are in this video, hey, show up for this video. You guys don't even have to really do anything except for party, right? And
Right.
just stand around and watch. I don't know.
I almost
Some-
forgot about that video.
Some of the stuff from the that was like well, you've probably remember the story about how Motley Crue, they got all clean and then they went to Russia, and they, everyone else got on the plane was like the drugs and alcohol and all this stuff, and they were supposed to be there doing a benefit for like
The Moscow Peace Festival.
right?
Yeah.
Music and
Yeah.
Peace Festival or something.
We're like,
Yeah,
man,
which
we're
was put
hip-
together because Doc McGee basically got arrested for drug trafficking.
Right. And that was part of his like probation. And he set up this nonprofit and did this thing. And it was
Yeah.
like drugs in a tube just flying
Yeah.
over to Russia.
Flying from one country to another.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
nowadays, forget it. You may stay in there a while. Yeah, no, when I was doing the prep for the show here, that question, I went and was watching the video. So in that scene there in the beginning, Sam standing there actually is Matt's brother, who we went to school with.
Oh.
John's brother. I mean, again, that was back in the '80s, so he looks obviously little like younger, much younger than he obviously today. But his brother's standing right next to Sam in that video there while he's shooting it. So you can always go back and it's funny as we're talking about videos, Craig. The Eric and Tina were talking about some of the Rat videos and some of the stuff that the cut scenes or this and that. I'm like, I got to go back and watch I think it was a scene they did a cut scene and the guy's still up in the attic and when they were dropping down on the
Oh yeah, Warren DeMartini dropping down onto the dining table in Round and Round. Yeah.
And actually, Bobby Blotzer shared a story about how the editing was all fucked up in that portion of the video. And he was so pissed because he's a perfectionist. And yeah, there was some behind the scenes stuff that Bobby Blotzer shared. Yeah.
Oh, that's
cool.
funny. So all right, so I think you guys
I think we have one more question, right?
Yep.
Well, we have two, but the first one is
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. I'm gonna this is off the cuff. This is game time.
Oh,
tape.
okay.
Pulling an audible.
From which great state does Kip Winger hail?
I think I know this one, Paul.
Oh no, I think I do know this one because I think I heard this on the show. There was reason, or no, I read it somewhere because of the song, or maybe he made a reference to it because of the 17th song. All right, do we want to take a few minutes and huddle up here?
No, I mean I'm almost 100% I know.
Huddling up.
I'm gonna get real close to the camera.
What do you think it is, Craig?
I think it's Colorado.
Yes. Kip Winger is from Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Very
only
good.
reason I know that is because I recently discovered I think it was like an album of like great unsigned bands or something like that used to get done. Like a radio station would like find like 12 local bands and they'd put out a record. And I don't remember the name of the band, but Kip Winger was involved with them. And I remember it came out of Colorado, and that's the only reason I knew that. Excellent
Amazing.
question. Yeah. Also cousins of Deborah Winger, which
Is that true?
yeah, they're cousins.
Really? I did not know that.
Man.
Little known facts about Kip Winger. We're doing a Winger deep dive podcast episode here pretty
Well, there
quick.
you
So
go.
these are all good things to know.
Yeah.
That was the amazing thing about Winger to me is like those guys were like super, 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 super talented.
Yeah.
And they were kind of downplayed by the glam image, but like listen to like the single I don't know if the single version was cut, but like Headed for a Heartbreak. Like there's this ridiculous breakdown in the middle of it where they're just like jamming.
Yeah.
I mean those guys all had chops. Like Reb Beach is like just like a monster, and like Kip is like an all-purpose like
So good.
bass player, guitar player,
Vocalist.
singer, songwriter, like
Composer,
it's always
dancer. I mean,
yeah, it's so funny that like
Great
on
teeth.
Beavis and Butthead they like made fun of like Winger, like Stewart wore the Winger shirt, but I'm like, those dudes kicked ass. Like,
Yeah, they were very talented.
And to think that, you take the band that most people end up learning about, Kip Winger was in his own band, that he was in Alice Cooper.
yeah, during like the Kane Roberts era, like
So it's like, okay, this guy with the great teeth and that awesome 5 o'clock shadow that the girls really liked, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
That's right.
Super
Oh,
white
you
teeth,
gotta listen
and
to
it's always
that's another,
5 o'clock shadow.
even guys, even he was a good looking, even for guy can admit it. Yeah, there was. Yeah, you got to listen to that episode, Craig, as they had ranked their bass players in no particular order, right? It was
Correct. We didn't necessarily say we had a number one favorite, although I do, of course, have a number one favorite. It's Nikki Sixx, but we didn't rank them. They were just our favorites. Yeah. Our favorites.
And well, I learned today without listening to the episode that Eddie Jackson is not on that list.
Eddie Jackson was not on the list. I actually already forgot which band he was with. He was right.
No, Craig, he just missed the cut. Just missed it.
Yeah.
So I think this is our final question, right?
Yeah,
Paul?
you got it. Yeah, so it's your question.
All right. What artists from the 60s and 70s co-wrote songs on the 1981 Kiss album, The Elder?
Jesus.
Artists from the 60s and 70s wrote on the Kiss album.
It's Kiss's concept album, which was a huge failure, but
now, would you guys consider Kiss in your wheelhouse of the bands?
We talk about them, but we talk about them more in terms of their resurgence because, of course, Kiss has a long history and they were around way before 80s metal ever showed up on the scene. But then they had a resurgence during that 80s metal time frame.
Crazy Nights was like a direct response to Bon Jovi.
Right.
Yeah. And let's put
Tina, I don't know that I have any guesses whatsoever.
I'm going to guess Engelbert Humperdinck.
No.
What about Meatloaf? Is Meatloaf the answer?
Is it Desmond Child?
No, it was actually it's very like people still shake their head about this. It was Lou Reed.
Oh wow!
Oh, Velvet Underground. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's debate about how much involvement he had. Some people say he suggested song titles. Other people say he wrote a verse here or there. But
interesting. Lou Reed.
Yeah. If you listen to A World Without Heroes, I believe that's one of the co-writes.
Interesting.
Kind of guessing.
We do have one question left. We do have one left on our list. So I'm going to give it to you guys because you guys are already ahead of us. But who played lead guitar for Ozzy Osbourne during his hit albums No Rest for the Wicked and No More Tears?
Well, that was the Zach era, right, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wild?
Very good. Zach Wild.
Okay. He's a Jersey guy, so...
Yep.
Well, honestly, with that, I think you guys beat us. You guys actually
Yeah.
I have to say that this was super fun and way more challenging than I expected. Or way more competitive than I expected. I expected of us all to just like stump each other. So I actually think that was really fun. I think there were some good questions.
I think it was too. It was fun to actually then just discuss the whole question answer as a group and like, I have a tidbit about this, and did you know that? And so it's cool for us to find, people in our lane and our age who like the same stuff and grew up, really passionate about this music, and there's a lot of us out there. So
we need to unite.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's and this is obviously one of those things. If we weren't already, almost close to an hour and a half, it's like we definitely probably could be talking all night, and that's Craig's always been one of those a lot more down the rabbit hole, a lot more details than I was, so we would always talk about certain things, certain bands. And again, as we got a little bit older, we started to, as he mentioned, started off with growing up with his brother at Kiss, and it got maybe a little bit harder rock with AC/DC, and then a little bit more, and then we started kind of shifting a little bit more to a little bit more metal, and but we'd still see the bands, and but it was an interesting time frame growing up in New Jersey, and
I bet
the music. So and Craig,
it was an interesting time frame growing up in South Sioux City, Nebraska. There's no one that made it big from South Sioux City, Nebraska, in terms of 80s metal.
No, it wasn't like, definitely not 80s metal, but although there was a little bit of a scene that came out of that area, but.
Oh, yeah.
So Craig
just didn't have a John Bon Jovi that was our next door neighbor or anything like that. So,
That's how we were talking about the how they gave away the house. Did you move to Sayreville by that time when they gave away the house on MTV?
You know what? I don't remember. What I do remember, Paul, though, is that when Dave Sabo finally moved out of his mom's house, we actually stood there and watched them load up the moving truck.
Right.
Because your house, like was what, like backed up to
like catty corner.
Yeah.
So I think, and they were just getting ready to pack up and head down to go record "Slave to the Grind."
Probably that timetable sounds right.
And that came out in 91. Yeah, summer of 91. About the same time the Metallica Black Album came out. Remember running, that summer going to the music store to go, and I think it was before I just moved too. So it was
I was going to say
early 91.
You did your last year in Florida.
Yeah.
That summer you would have moved to Florida.
Yeah. Well, we've got a whole lot more stuff we could probably share about our awkwardness of growing up and being in a band together, a fictional teenage boy band of being real, obscene kind of things. And Craig does actually, he's a musician. He does have music on Bandcamp that he's got out there that he has produced and made. So, he's got a lot of interesting things going on there. So.
Very cool.
That was another result of the pandemic and being furloughed. It got me
people
back.
Got so creative over the pandemic.
Actually, yeah, it was wild. I mean, 14 months. So without going crazy, and I mean, Vegas was impacted because, I think certain places can exist, but Vegas is what? Probably 90% tourist driven.
Oh yeah.
So when you're not getting tourists, it allowed me to be creative though, which is awesome. So I actually, in addition to some of the podcasting I did and some of the music I made, I actually edited 2 fan videos. I did a complete history of the Ramones, which is about a 2-hour, I call it a midnight movie. It's definitely you should put it on at midnight and if you're drinking beers. And then I did another one on the Beach Boys in the 80s. The Beach Boys are one of my favorite bands. And the 80s is such a weird decade for them. And there's a lot more than Kokomo that went on. And those are both on Vimeo if you search them or if you care.
Very nice.
I do care, actually. I love the Beach Boys. And you're right. The 80s era of Beach Boys was very weird.
Yeah. I'll send Paul the link to my Vimeo page where that is.
Cool.
Yeah. It's been fun finding Beach Boys albums on vinyl. Actually, Tina, you'll probably get a kick out of this. I found like a early 70s reissue of Wild Honey and 2020 were like sold together as a double LP.
Oh wow.
So I was like super thrilled when I found that, because I'm like, I could get Wild Honey on vinyl and I could get 2020 on vinyl, but can I get them together with like really bad Surfer Girl artwork?
Yes.
So
Very cool. So, and then the podcast there you've got going on, Craig, is the Last Action.
Yeah, actually, so kind of as a lark, I had started a career retrospective of Sylvester Stallone, where we were taking like a real serious critical look at his films, starting with his very first film. And I think we finally sort of tapped out when it started to get bad in the mid-90s, probably around Judge Dredd. But out of that experience, Paul, I connected with all these other podcasters who were sort of operating in the same lane. And we decided to sort of join forces, and we created this network called the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, where you've got shows that are dedicated. There's, I think, 3 different shows just like in the Rocky universe, or Stallone universe. And then we've got people that are doing Schwarzenegger movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, people that just focus on 80s action movies. So if you go to Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, you'll find new shows being released every week. And again, Paul, I'm not actively podcasting. I prefer to do these guest shots because it's a lot better.
Is this how you keep your podcast card with the union? You just go on other
Yeah,
shows?
it's also how I stay married too.
Oh, you guys didn't know about the podcast union?
Oh,
No.
The one
benefits and all that.
Oh, for
Pension.
sure. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The one problem I have with when I like produce a podcast is I get like really like obsessive about the editing, and
we don't.
We don't at all. I slap on the intro, outro. It's different every fucking time. I don't even care. And we load it up and we send it up.
I love that. Unfortunately,
So if you ever want us to edit your podcast, just let us know.
I much prefer just coming on and doing guest shots like these. There's so
someday
much fun.
maybe we'll have you guys on the A92A podcast,
There
and
you
we'll
go.
do like
We could do a round two.
You can be our guest.
Yeah, we got to do a round 2, right?
And we'll do a round 2, and trust me, we'll make those questions a lot fucking harder the next time.
You had some tough questions with that Gazzari club or whatever.
Somebody had actually said Gazzari's earlier in the conversation. That's why I thought it was a gimme. Like
I might have said it actually. I don't know if some of them said it, but yeah.
I just totally forgot that he actually had his own thing, and he wasn't like the guy who owned or ran the whiskey, or one of the clubs, Whiskey a Go Go or the Rainbow. And then again, then it was like heavily
of Mario. Yeah,
Right.
you're thinking of Mario, who was sort of known as the godfather of the strip. He had the Rainbow and the whiskey, but Bill Gazzari was a separate dude, much older dude who.
And it's funny to see Ricky Rackman in that, with a cat house, and had his own, again, pre Headbangers Ball. Ricky had his own thing
Club
going
owner.
on. Yeah.
Club owner, yeah.
So
with Amy.
Fast.
Ricky Rockman was actually almost one of my trivia questions, and I think I'll save it for next time.
Oh,
He was interviewed Ricky as well.
He was one of our first guests actually on our podcast.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So we just real quick, we'll wrap up. We got a Ricky Rackman story. As we had seen, we went to go see. Again, we started to, as we got a little older, started leaning a little bit more heavier, and went to see. I think I may have talked about this on the podcast. Megadeth and Anthrax and Slayer.
I saw that show.
So Clash of the Titans.
And who was the opener, Tina? Do you remember?
It might have been different for her.
Yeah, that's what I was just curious.
Yeah, I saw it out here at Universal Amphitheater. I don't remember who the
So we had at that time, Headbangers Ball was in '91, right? Because I think it was the last concert before I moved, and we were probably more interested in seeing the opener.
Alice in
And
Chains,
Alice in Chains, the original, lineup in Alice in Chains.
Oh yeah.
And it was before really anyone. Again, you have all these metalheads, and it was just weird. Is like we look back now and say that line in the that frame point, the moment in time when we saw the metal scene transition to the grunge scene, and it was almost like, here we're gonna put Alice in Chains on a bill with these metal god bands, and and it didn't go over very well because the metal fans were not Alice in Chains fans. But then I'm sure
it's funny, Paul. I saw Alice in Chains open for two bands. You just referenced Clash of the Titans tour. I saw them open for another band where the reception wasn't good as well, and I can't remember if you were with that at that show with me, but they opened for Van Halen as well.
Oh, okay.
And Lane was like really, really like showing his disdain for the response he was getting from the audience. It was actually pretty wild. So it's crazy that like I saw them in two hostile opening act environments. But Paul, if you remember, that Clash of the Titans show was also pretty being in the tri-state area. We saw Anthrax do Bring the Noise with Chuck D and Flavor Flav.
Yep. Right. That was huge. Right. It was a huge song that summer that came out with Attack of the Killer Bees release that they put out there. And they were featured as because they rotated who was closing every night.
And, did they? Yeah, it was either Megadeth or
because obviously Anthrax was going to close because it was their home show. And they actually that was one of the episodes they covered on Headbangers Ball was that happened to be that show. I think they may have done like a 2-part show or series, but Ricky Rackman was out, and again, it was tough. Ricky Rackman was got a lot of shit for whether people felt like he should be the face of metal or
it's better than Adam Curry.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But we loved Adam Curry also.
Yeah. Adam Curry.
You can't hate on Adam Curry too much, right? Because he's seen as the godfather of podcasting, right?
Oh, he's an innovator, hands down, yeah.
So,
but I mean, like Ricky Rockman looked like us, I mean,
until he cut his hair. Yeah, but we all did.
And now it looks like Tina, because Tina has a mohawk. So now he and Tina look alike.
Paul, thank you so much for putting this together.
It's growing out, Tina.
Yeah.
I'm kind of growing it out into like a pixie mullet, but I'm in this in between stage where I might just go shave it again. But
I dig the mohawk. I dig the mohawk. Yeah. So Paul's if you value my opinion,
I'll get sick of it at some point and just shave it again. So we'll see it again, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So all right. So as we wrap up here, so Craig, any shameless plugs?
No. I mean, if you really are interested in listening to my music, you can find me on Bandcamp if you search Craig Cohen. I don't think there's anybody else that's released music on Bandcamp under that name, and it's very non-metal. It's instrumental, synth-based.
Is it like Duran Duran?
No, it's
chill.
More
chill.
It's more proggy, and it's been an adventure because I'm a guitar player, so like working with keyboards is very fun. So yeah, like I said, if you search, I can give you stuff for the show notes if you want, Paul. I can give you links. But that's really what I'm actively like spending most of my creative free time on when I'm not guesting on podcasts. So thank you for the invite, and it was so cool meeting you ladies.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah. Erika, Tina, what shameless plugs, right?
Well, just listen to Ages 9 to Adult. That's our only shameless plug. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere you stream. And we have Instagram at A92A_life. And we're in all the places. So just look for us.
A92_life.
Yes.
Ages 9 to adult.
Ages 9 to Adult.
Yes. How long we've been together as friends.
Oh.
92 is also our high school graduation year.
So
the whole intro.
I'm not going to finish it. It's the whole intro. Yeah.
So Craig, we're working on a board game here for them.
Yes, we want to do a life board game, an 80s metal life board game.
Oh wow!
So, all right, there you go. There you have somebody, venture capitalist there, is going to help invest in this.
Perfect.
Oh, great. He just volunteered your money, I
Yeah, there
guess.
you go. It's not my money. Yeah. So, all right. So as we wrap
Thank you
up
for
here,
having us.
I'm going to let you hold on, girls. I'm going to let you close out the show here with your wrap up. I don't know, what do you call it? Your bumper saying, your logo here. So here it is. Let's wrap this up here, girls. Go for it.
Well, we went through a lot of our stuff, but we just want to say until next time, keep what am I saying?
Yes. Keep ratting those bangs and banging those heads.
There you go. Oh, you
got it. We say it every time.
Yes, I know. You like the simplest things we remember. So again, I appreciate you all for coming on there. So yeah, so stay tuned. Maybe round 2, we'll have to definitely set that up.
That's
sometime
right.
in 2023.
We'll host you on ours next time.
All right. Thanks for all tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Guys.